What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that nobody is No Perfect Movie. And nobody centers around a mild mannered husband and father named Hutch, played by Bob Odenkirk, who's getting sick and tired of how repetitive his daily life is. But after a home invasion and a run in with a group of Russian mobsters, he decides to take out his frustrations in life on those Russians by beating the shit out of them, and proving that he has a special set of skills he's been suppressing for an extremely long time that attracts the attention of a local mob boss and puts his family in danger. And fun little fact, this was actually supposed to be the first movie I saw in a theater this year. My buddy Josh and I had it all planned out to go to this one theater that playing a half hour away from us because their region was doing better than ours. And then, of course, it was too good to be true. Our fucktard premiere decided to shut the province down again. And regardless of whether you think that was the right decision or not, I'm not going to argue if you've already made your mind on that. Needless to say, we were disappointed. And then, whoa, that felt good. And then, when drive-ins opened and we went to A Quiet Place 2 together, we saw that the Nobody poster was up and it would be playing for a week only. And we thought, okay, now was our chance to do so. But it was only playing on my work nights at like 12 to 2:30 in the morning after Fast 9 and the double feature, and there was no fucking way I was going to watch Fast 9 and just to wait for that. So I don't know why the universe didn't want us to watch Nobody in a theater, because having seen it twice at home, the theater should have been the place to check it out, because this is a damn good action movie. Not an original one by any means. All the John Wick comparisons that you might have heard when this movie got announced, they're absolutely there. A seemingly ordinary man who's actually a suppressed killing machine, going after gangsters who have threatened to or have already taken everything in his life. There is a pet that he carries around sometimes for some symbolic significance, a few world-building sequences that offer subtle clues into a character's backstory while still leaving plenty of interpretation that could be expanded upon in a sequel. And there are even some fight scenes and set pieces that feel very reminiscent of the original trilogy. It's no surprise that Derek Kolstad, who wrote this movie, also wrote every single John Wick movie in existence, but what makes it so easy to forgive this fact and what makes it still feel fresh is that they take the John Wick cliches that still work while still adding in some new elements or expanding upon those. For instance, director Ilya Naishuller, no idea how to pronounce his name, but he directed Hardcore Henry. He features a lot of cool and stunning film noir shots that completely shroud Hutch in mystery as he's going from one location to another to build up just how good his skills are going to be and for us to anticipate what his next move is. There are some sequences where he reenacts the exact same daily routine in a before and after scenario during the home invasion and run-ins that show how he has dealt with life beforehand and how the run-ins have changed him seemingly either for the better or worse. And it leads to a lot of hidden Easter eggs in the background that either foreshadow certain events or serve as some clever in-jokes should you catch them. For instance, at his office, there's a bulletin board that says safety first as he's talking to the cleaning lady with a mop. And then once the gangsters in the climax trace him back to the office, and that's where the final battle takes place, the safety first sign is a lot more pronounced in the foreground within the shot, and the mop is used as a weapon in a way that I don't want to spoil because it leads to my favorite kill in the entire film for sure. The soundtrack has got to be my favorite soundtrack of the year so far. It's this old school eclectic mix of jazz, R&B, classic rock featuring artists like Edwin Starr, Nina Simone, Pat Benatar, even Louis Armstrong, whose song What a Wonderful World, which I had forgotten hasn't actually been played in that many movies that I know of anyways, that serves as the montage song of one of the funniest moments in the movie, which reminds me, I love the way montages are portrayed in slow motion where the actions of the characters are so overblown and exaggerated, and the music choices are these large scale, almost operatic level songs that are so cheesy and overblown in an 80s type of way where you just can't help but smile and laugh at all of this, especially in the climax where Christopher Lloyd, because he's in this and he's still alive as far as I know, gets in a few gruesome kills himself, which was so fun to watch. Glad to see him do another project again. But Yeah, that just added so much to the entertainment value, and it goes without saying. The action scenes are the main reason to check out this movie. They're filmed in clear, fluid, wide shots. The editing never hides the violence. If anything, it makes it explicitly clear Bob Odenkirk is doing most of, if not all of his stunts. There's one point where he does a somersault and then shoots somebody, and I just sat there and went, that had to have been a stunt double. But when you watch the behind the scenes features, he actually did that somersault, which is insane. And I'll get into his training regime in a little bit, but I do like the fact that as opposed to John Wick focusing straightly on throws, grappling, and gun fu, there was more of an emphasis on hand-to-hand combat, knives, billy clubs, grabbing everything you can to either stab or beat the shit out of somebody. And I like how the action starts off small and more confined locations like a bus or a house, but as the stakes become higher, the set pieces become larger, and it provides Hutch so many opportunities to take anything around him to use to kill someone, especially in the final battle in the office, where he goes full Home Alone on the Russians' asses, and it was glorious to watch. It's something that action movies struggle with. They always go either back and forth in regards to how creative the set pieces are and how integral they are to the story. Nobody gets it down perfectly. Speaking of which, especially when it comes down to Bob Odenkirk as the main lead, because when I found out that this movie existed and that he was going to star, I had to have been one of the few people who wasn't skeptical about him being an action hero. I know he's a scrawny guy in his late 50s in real life and nobody. It turns out that he refused to bulk up in the 2 years of training, because that's how long it took. He refused to get in some muscles during his training regime so that it would be a hell of a lot more of a surprise when he started kicking ass. And that definitely works to his advantage. But keep in mind, dude's most famous for crime thrillers where guys in their 50s to 60s could kick anyone's ass. So it's not like he doesn't know how to be a tough guy. And he makes that very clear in the first standoff between him and the villain, where he is cocky as hell, loving the fact and making it clear that he's getting under this guy's skin. And that was what makes him surprisingly more of a morally ambiguous main character. You definitely root and understand him all the way through, despite making some very reckless and self-satisfying choices, like the fact that he basically provoked the fight on the bus for no real reason other than he was stressed out and wanted to take it out on people who didn't do anything wrong to him but still had it coming. So there's definitely the complicated morals on that end. But what was interesting was that from beginning to end, he has a strict moral code. He doesn't kill anyone unless it's for self-defense or to protect his wife and children. And when it comes down to why he decides to take out his frustrations on other people, you can see it in his eyes at the very beginning that he wants to express his anger to his family the proper way, but he's too afraid to because he's concerned about what they might think of him. But after the first fight, he realizes, if I could beat the shit out of these Russians, I can just flat out tell my wife, I'm not happy with what's happening. We haven't embraced. We're not talking to each other. Or to let his kids know, I'm proud of what you guys do every single day and I love you. It's a weird type of arc. And there are some people who have complained about the fact that his arc is basically his masculinity being questioned and him thinking that kicking people's asses for right or wrong reasons is seemingly the solution, which, if the movie would seriously be arguing that that is an appropriate solution, that venting is more important than expressing, would anyone try to invade his home to try and kill him? And would the villain, who also has that exact same issue, his masculinity is being questioned by his own comrades in the mafia over some of the stuff that he does, and not only is there a personal reason for going after Hutch, but it would definitely make him seem like more of a man to the mafia. If that was the actual message, would the characters have done any of these actions? No. The movie makes it explicitly clear that physical violence and intimidation, as fun as it can be sometimes, leads to much worse consequences down the road, but they also make it explicitly clear that bottling up your emotions, as well intended as it could be, is just as harmful, because you're not being honest to yourself or your loved ones, and when you finally do snap, particularly at someone who is completely unrelated to your problems, the situations and the consequences are not going to get any better. But once he does openly express himself the proper way to his wife and family, it's still beneficial towards him in the end because the people who kind of already knew that he had a special set of skills become more willing to help him out in the climax, that being Christopher Lloyd and his half-brother Riza, who are not in it enough to... They weren't in it enough for me, but at the same time, it was great to see Riza in a good movie for once. I loved the fight scenes that he had, and I like that he spends the majority of the movie off screen to make him more mysterious and also more vulnerable than Hutch is. But when you see his fight choreography, you get the sense of what types of skills he had, whether or not he was in specific military or espionage organizations, and that leaves a lot up to interpretation, as I said before, where if they were to make a sequel, and based on the box office numbers, I think they definitely can, he can become a much cooler character. And Christopher Lloyd, it's great to see that he's still breathing. I couldn't understand a fucking thing he said the first time around, and the second viewing I had to watch subtitles. But even then, that does kind of add to the comedy of the character, because even though on the surface in his retirement home, he seems very cynical, drawn out, and unwilling to talk to that many people outside of his family, but when he's in the fight, dude is fucking insane and loving every single moment of it. I hope he's alive for the sequel, because that would be fucking great. And based on an end credit scene, because there is one, I'm willing to bet the filmmakers are hoping that he's still alive at that point too. Now, as for problems, as everyone's pointed out, the villain is as bland and generic as it gets. I give the actor and the director credit for trying to build him up as an intimidating presence. There are a couple scenes that are done in one take to make him a total badass in his own right, where in one shot, from beginning to end, he throws a chair at someone and you can feel the impact a hell of a lot better because there's no edit. Or in his introduction, where in a long take he walks from street to street into his nightclub, all the cars stop for him and honk, but he doesn't flinch at all. So things like that made him a lot more tolerable, but at the same time, they don't take any advantages with the possible cat and mouse game that comes between him and Hutch. He doesn't even have a quote-unquote fight scene with him. He just takes his gun and starts shooting all over the place. No knives, no fists against him, and that part was a massive disappointment. There was no boss fight whatsoever. Hell, the henchman in the movie had the potential to be even more hardcore than him, and they build him up once in a while, but there's nothing interesting or entertaining about him other than they're constantly pointing out that he's a Black Russian. Because apparently the largest country in the world that spans 2 continents allegedly doesn't have any black people who live in there, or maybe were even born in there, which, yeah, that's a fucking shocker, isn't it? And it goes without saying that Hutch's family members, you don't really care about them all that much, except for Connie Nielsen. She does have a few good moments to herself where she does imply that she's known a lot of details about Hutch's past life, but still loves him regardless, which was a huge change of pace, and it was something that I wanted to see a lot more often because it's that brand new for a movie like this. But again, much like Riza, there are some potential for sequels to expand on that, but for this one movie, I needed more of a reason to care for her and for their kids, because the daughter was cute and sweet, that was totally fine, but the son gets nothing, and there's a little bit of a father and son conflict that gets resolved drastically easy, even after all the darker shit that he witnesses his father do. But in any case, nobody was a fucking blast to watch based on the stylistic choices. The action scenes were insanely well done and build upon each other in the best possible way. Bob Odenkirk was hilarious, badass, and I forgot to mention, Odenkirk has this great routine where he tries to explain his backstory to the people trying to whack him, but without spoiling anything, he keeps getting cut off, and that was fucking hilarious. There's great action, great comedy, great performances from the people who are allowed to shine. Here's hoping that Derek Kolstad, when he writes the sequel, because apparently he is, tries to throw in a few more surprises here and there, because that would be a nice start. But either way, I'm going to give Nobody a 4 out of 5. Definitely check it out on VOD or rentals if you have it anywhere near you. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.